Good morning. My name is Stephanie Cooper, and I'm the Deputy Commissioner for Policy and Planning here at MassDEP. And I'm going to try not to move around, but I find it's like a moving target in this room to find the optimal place that you can stand. You can see everybody and they can see you. So anyway, it is my pleasure to welcome you to our stakeholder process today. We are formally initiating and kicking off our stakeholder process that will inform our development of a drinking water standard for PFAS. This is a commitment that we made as an outgrowth of the petition from Conservation Law Foundation and Toxics Action Center, and I want to recognize that they are here today continuing to engage with us. And I recognize and I know that many of you were part of the petition process. So we'll talk about that briefly. My role here today is to set a little bit of context, to talk about the structure of this process. We'll do some introductions and go through the agenda, and then dive in from there. But the first thing that I want to say is that we are really pleased that all of you are here engaging with us. This is the beginning of the process, and we very much want to, expect to, and have organized this process so that we can hear from everybody. And I do want to note that we are live streaming it so that those who wanted to at least observe the process today but couldn't be here are able to do that. But we will have, we'll talk about, we have opportunities for written comment after today. We're going to have more meetings, and all of this precedes the actual formal rulemaking process, which many of you know has robust public comment opportunity. And really our goal today is to sort of set the stage and give some context for the process. So what we're embarking on is setting a maximum contaminant level for a group of PFAS. And so we want to, some of you may know in detail what an MCL process is, but it's a very specific and somewhat complex thing. So we want to talk about that today and sort of set the context and let everybody have that same sort of foundation of information that will sort of tee up the areas in which we're going to be looking for your input. So that's our big goal for today. And we noted in our announcement about today's, beginning this process, that we anticipate having at least 2 in-person meetings. And we'll see, we'll see how we do, and we'll work with you to plan the process to make sure that we're, addressing all of the salient points. But that's our plan so far. And I would note that, we made this commitment to develop this drinking water standard out of the petition, and we announced that in January, in late January, in our response. And what we said is that the department would seek to develop a maximum contaminant level for a group of PFAS for which we had, good solid information about what the risks were to human health, and where there's technology in place to be able to detect PFAS, those particular compounds, and where treatment techniques existed to address it. That being said, we recognize that the petitioners and many other stakeholders were seeking to have the department follow a treatment technique where we would set an enforceable set of procedures that public water suppliers would follow. And there was also the notion, and folks were advocating for the idea of setting a standard for all of the 3,000 some PFAS compounds. So we acknowledge that, and what we said in our response is that we will continue to explore and seek input and information on that. But we knew we could move forward with what we had good information on and had done research and collaborated with other states. But we anticipate through this process and through other means to continue to explore those other aspects of this. So I mentioned, this is our stakeholder process. DEP has a long tradition and culture of convening these types of stakeholder processes because we find them to be incredibly helpful and valuable in our work. And what we try to do is have, in selecting stakeholders or inviting people to be part of the process, to represent all of the sort of entities and perspectives that have an interest and are affected by the issue that we're working on. And so that's what we've done today, but we recognize, and especially in this instance, there are many people who are very interested in this issue who have good thoughts and perspectives, and so that's why we've set up this process to hear from everybody. And we also, I want to acknowledge, felt it was important to include representatives from some of the impacted communities who are dealing with PFAS contamination, so we welcome them to the table today as well. And with that, that's actually a good segue to do some quick introductions. So I want to ask you to start, and we'll just go around. We call this the chevron, our shape here. So we'll go around, rather than the circle, go around the chevron.
I'm Doug Fine, the Assistant Commissioner for the Water Programs here at MassDEP.
I'm Damon Gutterman. I'm a Senior Analyst in the Drinking Water Program at MassDEP.
Eva DeP's a Program Director for the Drinking Water Program at MassDEP.
Steve Rosato, American Chemistry Council, and interests of ACC include not only the manufacturers of these chemicals, but also past and present users of products containing them, as well as treatment technology companies. So we've got a fairly wide perspective.
I apologize for being late. My name is Laura Shader. I'm a research scientist at the Silent Spring Institute. We're a nonprofit research organization, and we've been studying PFAS in drinking water on Cape Cod and elsewhere for about 10 years now. Thanks for inviting me.
I'm Shana Casper, the Vermont, New Hampshire State Director with Toxics Action Center. Heather Govern with the Conservation Law Foundation. I'm the Director of the Clean Air and Water Program.
Alyssa Raymond Reed. I'm Vice President and Massachusetts Director at Conservation Law Foundation, and I really appreciate that you're holding this meeting today, and just will say that CLF is taking this threat of these contaminants really seriously, and that's one of the reasons that I'm here today.
Hi, I'm Ariella Levitt from the Mass Municipal Association, and I'm excited to be Jeff Beckwith for the day.
Sue?
Sue Phelan, I'm the Director of Green Cape, based on Cape Cod.
Kristen Mello. I'm a co-founding member of Westfield Residents Advocating for Themselves in Westfield, Massachusetts.
Jim Stockman, I'm the Massachusetts State Lead for Rural Community Assistance Partnerships, Northeast Branch for RCAP Solutions.
Jennifer Peterson, I'm the Executive Director of Massachusetts Waterworks Association. We're a nonprofit representing the drinking water suppliers throughout the Commonwealth.
Paul Hobart, Eurofins Test America Laboratory. I am representing the ITLA, Independent Testing Laboratory Association.
Steve S.T. Smarjowski, I'm Director of Planning and Sustainability at the Massachusetts Water Resource Authority, the regional water and sewer wholesaler.
Michael Salona, I'm Chief of Water Toxics at the State Department of Public Health.
Excellent, thank you. And I also want to welcome Nolan O'Brien, who's here from Congressman Markey's office. So, Nolan, thank you. Thank you for being with us, and we thank the Congressman for his leadership and interest in this issue. So next, what I'd like to do is just quickly go through our agenda, and then we will dive right in. So we're checking off number 1 on the list, which is our welcome and introductions. And then in a moment, I'm going to turn the program over to Doug Fine, who you just heard from, as well as Paul Locke. And they're going to talk about, just sort of give you an update on what we're seeing in terms of PFAS activity and detections in other jurisdictions, as well as what we're seeing here in the Commonwealth. And then our other related rulemaking and policy making actions related to PFAS. So we at DEP, we are spending an enormous amount of time on PFAS, and it's not just our drinking water program, it's our waste site cleanup program, and as well as our Office of Research and Standards and others really across the agency. And so what we are really committed to do is to have all of our work be very well coordinated and integrated, and you're going to hear more about that today. And I will not steal Doug's and Paul's thunder, but our waste site cleanup standards will be our first sort of public sort of declaration of what the department is thinking in terms of actual limits for these compounds. And we've set it up in such a way that it will be integrated with this process. It will be integrated with looking at our current health advisory for drinking water, but that will be the first place that the sort of public discussion takes place in terms of looking at that limit. So you will hear about that. And then Damon Gutterman from our drinking water program will take over the program at that point and talk about in detail what the MCL process is. So, what are all the steps in the process? What do we anticipate will be the timeline? What are the components? And we want to get into that in some detail so that you know, and as I said earlier, have a grounding in what we're going to be looking at, and you can give us helpful advice about that as we go forward. And then we have carved out a good chunk of time for questions, comments, discussions from anybody here in the room. And then we'll spend a little bit of time just planning and wrapping up and having a path forward toward our new meeting and what will be our next meeting, and what we'll be doing in the interim. and then we will adjourn. So with that, I'll just pause. Does anybody have any questions about anything I've said so far? Okay, excellent. I'm going to turn the program over to Doug. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie.